August 1st, 2025, the Diamond Sutra. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. The Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered even in a million kalpas. Now we are able to hear, study, and follow it. May we fully realize that Tathagata's true. Thus have I heard. Once the Buddha was staying in Anapantika's park in Jeddah Grove in Shavasthi with a community of 1,250 bhikshus. When it was mealtime, the world honored one put on his robe, took his alms bowl, and went into the great city of Shavasthi, going from house to house to beg for food. This done, he returned to his abiding place, finished the meal, put away his robe and bowl, washed his feet, arranged his seat, and sat down. Then the elder Subhuti, one of the most senior in the assembly, arose from his seat, bared his right shoulder, knelt on his right knee with his palms joined, and respectfully addressed the Buddha. How remarkable, world-honored one, that the Tathagata is ever mindful of Bodhisattvas, protecting and instructing them well. World-honored one, when good men and good women resolve to attain Anuttara Bodhi, how should they abide and how should they subdue their minds? The Buddha said, excellent, Subhuti, it is as you said, the Tathagata is ever mindful of Bodhisattvas, protecting and instructing them well. Now, listen attentively and I will explain it for you. Good men and good women who resolve to attain Anuttara Bodhi should thus abide and subdue their minds. Yes, world-honored one, we are listening with great anticipation. The Buddha said to Subhuti, the Bodhisattvas and Mahasattvas should thus subdue their minds, all the different types of beings, whether they are born from eggs, from wombs, from moisture, or by transformation, whether they have form or no form, whether they have thought or no thought, or have neither thought nor non-thought. I will liberate them by leading them to nirvana without residue. When immeasurable, countless, infinite sentient beings have been liberated, ultimately, no sentient beings have been liberated. Why? Subhuti, if bodhisattvas have any notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or lifespan, they're not bodhisattvas. Furthermore, Subhuti, in the practice of charity, bodhisattvas should abide in nothing whatsoever. That is, to practice charity without abiding in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharmas. Subhuti, bodhisattvas should practice charity this way, abiding in nothing. Why? If bodhisattvas practice charity without attachment, their merits are immeasurable. Subhuti, what do you think? Is the space in the eastern direction measurable? No, world-honored one. Subhuti, is any of the space in the southern, western, or northern directions in the four intermediate directions above or below measurable? No, world-honored one. Subhuti, the merits obtained by the bodhisattvas who practice charity without attachment are also immeasurable as such. Subhuti, the bodhisattvas should thus abide by what is just taught. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be recognized by means of his physical appearance? No, world-honored one, the Tathagata cannot be recognized by his physical appearance. Why? The Tathagata teaches physical appearances are not physical appearances. The Buddha said to Subhuti, all appearances are illusory. To see that appearances are not appearances is to see the Tathagata. Subhuti addressed the Buddha, world-honored one, will there be any sentient beings who give rise to true faith upon hearing this teaching? The Buddha said to Subhuti, do not even say such a thing. After my passing in the last 500 years, there will be those observing the precepts and cultivating merits who have the faith that these are words of truth. You should know that these people have not merely cultivated virtuous roots with one Buddha, two Buddhas, 3, 4, or 5 Buddhas. They have cultivated all kinds of virtuous roots with hundreds of thousands, even countless numbers of Buddhas. Upon hearing these passages, some will in an instant give rise to pure faith. Subhuti, the Tathagata knows and sees these beings perfectly as they obtain such countless merits. Why? It is because these sentient beings are free from the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or a lifespan. They are also free from the notions of dharmas and non-dharmas. Why? If the minds of these sentient beings have attachments, they are clinging to the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or a lifespan. If they have the attachment of dharmas, they're clinging to the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or a lifespan. Why? If they have the attachments of non-dharmas, they're clinging to the notions of self, a person, a sentient being, or a lifespan. Therefore, one should not cling to dharmas or non-dharmas. For this reason, the Tathagata often teaches bhikshus, know that my dharma is like a raft. If even the dharma should be abandoned, how much more so the non-dharma? Subhuti, what do you think? Has the Tathagata attained Anuttara Bodhi? Does he teach the dharma? As Subhuti said, as I understand the meaning of what the Buddha has said, there is no fixed dharma called Anuttara Bodhi. And there is no dharma that the Tathagata can teach. Why? The Dharma taught by the Tathagata cannot be grasped or explained. It is neither Dharma nor non-Dharma. How is it so? It is because all the saints and sages are distinguished by the unconditioned Dharma. So, Buddha, what do you think of a person who fell a trichilocosm with the 7 jewels and given away in charity? Wouldn't the merits obtained by this person be great? So, Buddha said, extremely great, world-honored one. Why? Even though the merit obtained is not in accord with the nature of merit, therefore the Tathagata says the merits obtained are great. But if a person studies and follows even a mere 4-line verse of this sutra and teaches it to others, this person's merits exceed the former's. Why? So, Buddha, all the Buddhas in the realization of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi originate from this sutra. So, Buddha, that which is called the Buddha Dharma is not the Buddha Dharma, therefore it is called the Buddha Dharma. So, Buddha, what do you think? Does a Srodapana have the thought of attaining the realization of the Srodapana? So, Buddha said, no, world-honored one. Why? Srodapana means stream enter, but there is nothing to enter. Therefore, one who does not enter into form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharmas is called Srodapana. So, Buddha, what do you think? Does the Sakratagamin have the thought, I've attained the realization of the Sakratagamin? So, Buddha said, no, world-honored one. Why? Sakratagamin means to go and come one more time, but there is in reality no going and no coming. Therefore, one is called the Sakratagamin. So, Buddha, what do you think? Does an Anagamin have the thought, I've attained the realization of the Anagamin? So, Buddha said, no, world-honored one. Why? Anagamin means non-returning, but there is, in fact, no such thing as non-returning. Therefore, one is called an Anagamin. So, Buddha, what do you think? Does an Arhat have the thought of attaining the realization of the Arhat? So, Buddha said, no, world-honored one. Why? There is in reality no such thing as an Arhat. World-honored one, if an Arhat gives rise to the thought of attaining the Arhathood, this means they're attached to the notions of a person, a selfless entity, being a lifespan. World-honored one, you have said of all people, I'm the foremost in attaining the samadhi of non-contention, the foremost Arhat in being free from desires. World-honored one, I do not have the thought, I'm an Arhat who is free from desires. World-honored one, if I'd given rise to the thought I've attained the Arhathood, you would not have said Subhuti practices Aryana, abiding peacefully in non-contention. In reality, Subhuti abides in nothing at all. Therefore, Subhuti is called the one who abides peacefully in non-contention. The Buddha said to Subhuti, what do you think? When the Tathagata studied under Dipankara Buddha, did he receive any Dharma? No, world-honored. When the Tathagata studied under Dipankara Buddha, he did not receive any Dharma. Subhuti, what do you think? Does a Bodhisattva adorn a world making into a Buddha world? No, world-honored. Why? To adorn the world into a Buddha world is not to adorn, therefore it is called to adorn. So, Subhuti, the Bodhisattvas and Mahasattvas should give rise to a pure mind that does not abide in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharmas. They should give rise to they should abide in nothing to give rise to the mind. Subhuti, if there were a person with the body the size of Mount Sumeru, what do you think? Would this body be huge? Subhuti said, extremely huge. World-honored one. Why? The Buddha teaches that it's not a body, therefore it is called a huge body. Subhuti, what do you think? If there are as many Ganges rivers as there are grains of sand in the Ganges, wouldn't the amount of sand contained in all those rivers be great? Subhuti said, extremely great, world-honored. If even the Ganges rivers are innumerable, how much more so the grains of sand? Subhuti, let me now tell you the truth. If a good man or good woman fills as many trichilocosms as there are grains of sand in all those rivers with the 7 jewels and gives away in charity, would these merits be great? Subhuti said, oh, extremely great, world-honored one. The Buddha said to Subhuti, if a good man or good woman is able to study and follow even a mere 4-line verse of this sutra and teach it to others, their merits are far greater than the former's. Furthermore, Subhuti, wherever one teaches or recites even a mere 4-line verse of the sutra, that place should be venerated as a Buddha stupa by heavenly beings, human beings, and asuras in this world. How much more so is the case where one can completely read, recite, study, follow this sutra? Subhuti, you should know such a person has accomplished the highest, rarest of accomplishments wherever the sutra is present. The Buddha or his revered disciples are also present. Then Subhuti addressed the Buddha, world-honored one, what shall we call this sutra and how shall we uphold it? The Buddha said to Subhuti, this sutra is called Diamond Prajna Paramita. In accord with this title, you should uphold the sutra. How is this so? Subhuti, the Buddha teaches that Prajna Paramita is not Prajna Paramita, therefore it's called Prajna Paramita. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have any Dharma to teach? Subhuti said to the Buddha, world-honored one, the Tathagata has nothing to teach. Subhuti, what do you think? Are all the tiny particles contained in this trichilocosm great and lovely? Subhuti said, extremely great, world-honored one. Subhuti, The Tathagata teaches tiny particles are not tiny particles, therefore they're called tiny particles. The Tathagata teaches that worlds are not worlds, therefore they're called worlds. So, Buddhi, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be recognized by means of his 32 good marks? No, World Honour, the Tathagata cannot be recognized by means of his 32 good marks. Why? The Tathagata teaches that the 32 good marks are not good marks, therefore they're called the 32 good marks. So, Buddhi, if a good man or good woman gives away their body and life as many times as there are grains of sand in the Ganges in charity, and if another studies and follows even a mere 4-line verse of this sutra, and teaches to others, the latter's merits far exceed the former's. Upon hearing this sutra, Subhuti was moved to tears, having deeply understood its meaning and significance. He said to the Buddha, "How remarkable, World Honour! You have taught us such a profound sutra, even though I have long attained the wisdom I've never heard such a teaching before. World Honour, if someone gives rise to hears this sutra, gives rise to pure faith, and thus perceives the true nature of reality, we should know that this person has achieved the most extraordinary merit. World Honour, when the true nature of reality is not true nature of reality, therefore it is what the Tathagata calls the true nature of reality. World Honour, when having just heard the sutra, I have no difficulty in believing, comprehending, studying, and following it. But in the ages to come, in the last 500 years, if there are sentient beings who hear this sutra and believe, comprehend, study, and follow it, they will be the foremost remarkable beings. Why? These beings do not have any notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or a lifespan. How is this so? A self is not a self. The appearances of a person, a sentient being, a lifespan are likewise not their appearances. Why? Those who relinquish all appearances and notions are called Buddhists. The Buddha said to Subhuti, so it is. You should know if someone hears this sutra and is neither shocked, frightened, or disturbed, this person is extremely remarkable. Why? Subhuti, the Tathagata says the foremost paramita is not the foremost paramita, therefore it's called the foremost paramita. Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches that tolerance paramita is not tolerance paramita, therefore it is called tolerance paramita. Why? Subhuti, in a former lifetime, my body was mutilated by King Kalinga. At that time, I had no notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or a lifespan. Why? If I had any notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or a lifespan, as my body was being dismembered, limb after limb, I would have given rise to the feelings of resentment and hatred. Subhuti, I also recall for 500 lifetimes I was a rishi of tolerance. At that time, I was also free from the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or a lifespan. Therefore, Subhuti, bodhisattvas should relinquish all appearances and notions in their resolve to attain anuttara samyak sambodhi. They should not abide in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharmas to give rise to a mind. They should give rise to a mind without abiding in anything. Any abidance of the mind is attachment. Therefore, the Buddha says, a bodhisattva should practice charity with a mind not abiding in any form. Subhuti, to benefit all sentient beings, a bodhisattva should practice charity in this way. The Tathagata teaches that all appearances and notions are not appearances and notions, and that all sentient beings are not sentient beings. Subhuti, what the Tathagata speaks is true, real, and as it is. His words are neither deceptive nor contradictory. Subhuti, the truth that Tathagata has attained is neither real nor unreal. Subhuti, if a bodhisattva practices charity with the mind abiding in something, they're like people entering darkness and thus not seeing anything. If a bodhisattva practices charity without abiding in anything, they're like people with eyes wide open, seeing all things clearly under the bright sunlight. Subhuti, if in a future time there are good men or good women who are able to read, recite, study, and follow this sutra, the Tathagata with his Buddha wisdom will clearly perceive and recognize each one of them as they all achieve immeasurable and infinite merit. Subhuti, if a good man or good woman offers their body in charity as many times as there are grains of sand in the Ganges in the morning, and then does likewise at noon and in the evening, continuing thus for immeasurable hundreds of thousands of millions of kalpas, and if someone else hears this sutra and gives rise to unwavering faith, the latter's merits far exceed the former's. How much more the merits of those who transcribe, read, recite, study, follow, and explain to others this sutra. In short, Subhuti, this sutra carries inconceivable, immeasurable, limitless merit, and the Tathagata teaches to benefit aspirants of the great vehicle as well as aspirants of the supreme vehicle. The Tathagata knows and sees all those who are able to read, recite, study, follow, and widely teach to others this sutra as they achieve innumerable, immeasurable, limitless, inconceivable merit. They indeed carry on the work of the Tathagata, bringing beings to anuttara samyak sambodhi. Why? Subhuti, those who are content with inferior teachings have the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or a lifespan. Such people are not able to hear, read, recite, study, and explain to others this sutra. Subhuti, wherever the sutra is present, All heavenly beings, human beings, and asuras in all the world should come together and make offerings wherever the sutra is present. That place is a stupa. All should respectfully circumambulate it, scattering fragrant flowers all around it. Furthermore, Subhuti, suppose there are good men or good women who read, recite, study, and follow the sutra, but are belittled by others. This is because their previous bad karma, which would have otherwise caused them to be reborn in the wretched destinies. But now, by enduring the disparagement of others, this previous bad karma is eradicated, and they will eventually attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Subhuti, I remember that countless kalpas ago, before the time of Dipankara Buddha, I encountered 84 millions billions of Nayutas of Buddhas, and made offerings to and served all of them without fail. However, if someone in the Dharma ending age can read, recite, study, and follow the sutra, this person's merits would be 100 times, even 100 trillion times greater than mine when I made offerings to all these Buddhas. In fact, no such comparison by calculation or analogy is possible. Subhuti, if I fully reveal the merits obtained by good men and good women who are able to read, recite, study, and follow this sutra during the Dharma ending age, some people, when hearing it, might become hysterical and skeptical and dismiss it. Subhuti, you should know the underlying meaning of this sutra is inconceivable, and its rewards are also inconceivable. Then Subhuti addressed the Buddha, world honored one. If good men and good women resolve to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, how should they abide and how should they subdue their minds? The Buddha said to Subhuti, good men and good women who resolve to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi should bear this in mind. I will liberate all sentient beings by bringing them to nirvana. Yet when all sentient beings have been liberated, not a single sentient being has actually attained nirvana. Why? Subhuti, if bodhisattvas have the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or a lifespan, they're not bodhisattvas. How is this so? Subhuti, there's actually no resolve for the attainment of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Subhuti, what do you think? When the Tathagata studied under Diamond Buddha, did he obtain anything in order to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi? No, world honored, as I understand the meaning of your teaching, when you studied under Diamond Buddha, there was nothing obtained for your attainment of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. The Buddha said, so it is, Subhuti, so it is. There is indeed nothing that Tathagata obtained to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Subhuti, if there was something obtained to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, Dipankara Buddha would not have foretold you will attain Buddhahood in the future with the name Shakyamuni. It is precisely because there's actually nothing obtained to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi that Dipankara Buddha foretold you will attain Buddhahood in the future with the name Shakyamuni. Why? This is because Tathagata means all dharmas as they really are. If someone says that Tathagata attained Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, Subhuti, there is in fact nothing obtained in the Buddha's attainment of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Subhuti, the Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi attained by the Tathagata is neither real nor unreal. Therefore, the Tathagata teaches that all dharmas are the Buddha Dharma. Subhuti, the so-called all dharmas are not dharmas at all. Therefore, they're called all dharmas. Subhuti, consider the example of a person with an immense perfect body. Subhuti said, world honor, when the person with the immense perfect body has no such body. Therefore, it is called an immense perfect body. Subhuti, so it is with the Bodhisattva. If someone else says, I will bring countless sentient beings to nirvana, they're not Bodhisattvas. Why? Subhuti, there's actually no such thing called a Bodhisattva. Therefore, the Buddha says, all dharmas are free from the notions of a self, a person, a sentient being, or lifespan. Subhuti, if a bodhisattva says, I will adorn the world, making it into a Buddha world, they are not bodhisattvas. Why? The Tathagata teaches that to adorn the world is not to adorn, therefore it is called to adorn. Subhuti, if a bodhisattva realizes the dharma of non-self, the Tathagata says, this is really a bodhisattva. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have the physical eye? Yes, world honored, the Tathagata has the physical eye. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have the Deva eye? Yes, world honored, the Tathagata has the Deva eye. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have the wisdom eye? Yes, world honored, the Tathagata has the wisdom eye. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have the Dharma eye? Yes, world honored, the Tathagata has the Dharma eye. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata have the Buddha eye? Yes, world honored, the Tathagata has the Buddha eye. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Buddha regard all the sand in the Ganges as sand? Yes, world honored, when the Tathagata calls it sand. Subhuti, what do you think? If there are as many Ganges rivers as there are grains of sand in the Ganges, and there were a Buddha world for each grain of sand in all those rivers, would the number of those Buddha worlds be great? Great indeed, world honored one. The Buddha said to Subhuti, with respect to each and every sentient being in all these Buddha worlds, The Tathagata is perfectly aware of their minds. Why? The Tathagata teaches that minds are not minds. Therefore, they're called minds. How is this so? The mind of the past is ungraspable. The mind of the present is ungraspable. The mind of the future is ungraspable. So, Buddha, what do you think of a person who fill a trichilocosm with the 7 jewels and give them away in charity? With such a deed, would the merits obtained by this person be great? Yes, world onward, this person would obtain extremely great merit from such a deed. So, Buddha, if the merits were real, the Tathagata would not say the merits obtained are great. It is only because these merits are not substantial that the Tathagata says the merits obtained are great. So, Buddha, what do you think? Can the Buddha be recognized by means of a perfect physical body? No, world onward. The Tathagata cannot be recognized by means of a perfect physical body. Why? The Tathagata teaches that a perfect physical body is not a perfect physical body, therefore it is called a perfect physical body. So, Buddha, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be recognized by means of perfect attributes? No, world onward. The Tathagata cannot be recognized by means of perfect physical attributes. Why? The Tathagata teaches perfect physical attributes are not actually perfect physical attributes, therefore they're called perfect physical attributes. So, but you do not think that Tathagata has a thought, I have something to teach. Do not think this way. Why? Whoever says that Tathagata teaches the Dharma slanders the Buddha because they do not understand my teaching. So, but to teach the Dharma is that there's no Dharma to teach. Therefore, it is called to teach the Dharma. Then the wise Venerable Subhuti said to the Buddha, world honored, will there be sentient beings in the future who will generate faith upon hearing these teachings? The Buddha said, Subhuti, they are neither sentient beings nor non-sentient beings. Why? The Tathagata teaches that sentient beings should go through many births, are not sentient beings, therefore they're called sentient beings. Subhuti said to the Buddha, world honored one, when the Buddha attained Anyuttara Samyaksambodhi, was nothing actually attained? The Buddha said, so it is, Subhuti, so it is. As to Anyuttara Samyaksambodhi, I have not attained the slightest thing. This is why it's called Anyuttara Samyaksambodhi. Therefore, Subhuti, all dharmas are equal. None is superior or inferior. This is called Anyuttara Samyaksambodhi. By cultivating all good without the notions of self, a person, sentient being, or lifespan, one attains Anyuttara Samyaksambodhi. Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches that good is not good, therefore it is good. Subhuti, if a person accumulates mounds of the 7 jewels equivalent in size to all Mount Sumerus in the worlds of a trichilocosm, and gives them away in charity, and another person reads, recites, studies, and follows this Prajnaparamita Sutra, even a mere 4-line verse, and teaches it to others, the former's merits be less than 100th, even a billionth of the latter's. In fact, the latter's merits are so great that no comparison by calculation or analogy is possible. Subhuti, what do you think? You should not claim that the Tathagata has a thought, I will liberate sentient beings. Subhuti, do not think this way. Why? There are, in fact, no sentient beings the Tathagata liberates. If there were sentient beings liberated by the Tathagata, it would mean that the Tathagata has notions of a self, a person, sentient being, or lifespan. Subhuti, when the Tathagata says I, there is actually no I. However, ordinary beings think that there is a real I. Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches that ordinary beings are not ordinary beings, therefore they're called ordinary beings. Subhuti, what do you think? Can one recognize the Tathagata by means of the 32 good marks? Subhuti said, yes. One can recognize the Tathagata by means of the 32 good marks. The Buddha said, Subhuti, if one recognizes the Tathagata by means of the 32 good marks, a wheel-turning sage king would be a Tathagata. Subhuti said to the Buddha, world onward, as I understand the meaning of what you've said, one should not recognize the Tathagata by means of the 32 good marks. Then the world onward spoke this verse. Those who see me in form or seek me through sound are on a mistaken path. They do not see the Tathagata. Subhuti, if you think the Tathagata attains Anyuttara Samyaksambodhi without the perfection of all attributes, Subhuti, do not think this way, that the Tathagata attains Anyuttara Samyaksambodhi without the perfection of all attributes. Why? Those who resolve to attain Anyuttara Samyaksambodhi do not assert the annihilation of the dharmas. Subhuti, if a Bodhisattva were to fill the worlds as many as the grains of sand in the Ganges with 7 jewels and give them away in charity, and another Bodhisattva were to attain the forbearance of the selfless nature of all dharmas, the merits of this Bodhisattva would exceed the former's. Why? Subhuti, this is because Bodhisattvas do not accumulate merits. Subhuti said to the Buddha, world honored, why is it that Bodhisattvas do not accumulate merits? Subhuti, Bodhisattvas do not cling to the merits they generate. Therefore, I say they do not accumulate merits. Subhuti, whoever says the Tathagata comes, goes, sits, or lies down, does not understand my teaching. Why? The thus come one neither comes nor goes. Therefore they're called the Tathagata. Somebody, what do you think? If a good man or good woman were to take all the worlds of trichilocosm and crush them into tiny particles, wouldn't the number of these particles be numerous? Somebody said extremely numerous, world Anu, and why? If these tiny particles had real existence, the Buddha would not call them tiny particles. How is it so? The Buddha teaches that tiny particles are not tiny particles, therefore they're called tiny particles. World Anu, and that which the Tathagata calls the worlds of trichilocosm are not actually worlds, therefore they're called worlds. Why? To the extent, if these worlds really exist, they exist as one wholeness. The Tathagata teaches one wholeness is not one wholeness, therefore it is called one wholeness. Subhuti, one wholeness is actually ineffable, but ordinary beings do cling to such a notion. Subhuti, say someone claims that the Buddha teaches the views of a self, a person, sentient being, in a lifespan. What do you think, Subhuti? Has this person understood the meaning of my teaching? No, world Anu, when this person's not understood the meaning of the Tathagata's teaching. Why? The world Anu teaches that the views of a self, a person, sentient being, in a lifespan are not the views of a self, a person, sentient being, a lifespan, and therefore they're called the views of a self, a person, sentient being, a lifespan. Subhuti, those who resolve to attain Anyuttara Sannyaksham Bodhi should know, perceive, believe, and understand all dharmas just as they are, without attaching to any dharma attributes. Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches dharma attributes are not dharma attributes, therefore they're called dharma attributes. Subhuti, if a person were filled countless worlds with the 7 jewels and given away in charity, and if a good man or good woman, having made the Bodhisattva resolve, reads, recites, studies, follows, and expounds to others this sutra, even a mere 4-line verse, the latter's merits far exceed the former's. How should one expound to others without attachment, abiding in stillness and suchness? Why? All conditioned dharmas are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow. Like dew or a flash of lightning, thus shall we perceive them. With this, the Buddha concluded the sutra. The elder Subhuti, other bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, upasikas, heavenly and human beings, asuras, and other beings of the world, having just heard the sutra, were all filled with immense joy. They accepted and followed the teachings faithfully, and of the Diamond Sutra. Lipo lipo di che di toluni di nihila di pilini di moha che di zingli chandi sapoha. Lipo lipo di che di toluni di nihila di pilini di moha che di zingli chandi sapoha. Lipo lipo di che di toluni di nihila di pilini di moha che di zingli chandi sapoha. Extinguish doubts and generate faith. Relinquish form and transcend principle. Instantly renounce attachment to all beings and dharmas to understand true emptiness. The flavor of prajna is sublime. Thoroughly understand the 4-line verse. Its merits are inexpressible. Namo Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Diamond Sutra Assembly. Namo Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Diamond Sutra Assembly. Namo Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Diamond Sutra Assembly. May all beings of the 4 births and the 9 realms ascend to the wondrous world of the lotus treasury. May those in the 8 woeful states and 3 wretched destinies flow into the sea of Vairocana. I take refuge in the Buddha. May each and every sentient being understand the great way profoundly and bring forth the Bodhi mind. I take refuge in the Dharma. May each and every sentient being deeply into the sutra treasury and have wisdom vast as the sea. I take refuge in the Sangha. May each and every sentient being form together a great assembly, one and all in harmony. What a wonderful blessing to recite this sutra. Let us dedicate the superb and limitless merits. May all floundering, struggling sentient beings soon reach the Buddha land of infinite light. Buddhas of the past, present, and the future, in the 10 directions, all Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, Mahaprajna, Paramita. May I remove the 3 obstructions and all afflictions. May I have the wisdom to perceive the truth. May all beings be free of transgression and desire and suffering. I vow to practice the Bodhisattva way, life after life.